Let me just say, this is not how I intended to return to YouTube. Part of me firmly believed that I never would return to YouTube. Or any kind of audible internet presence, to be completely honest. But shit has happened. And I feel that it needs to be discussed, even if it has been talked to death by the time this gets out. Don't feel too bad if you have no idea what I'm getting into. I didn't know what was going on until a few months ago. It is a saddening trend, but it's a trend that we need to acknowledge. The people who a lot of us, especially the younger ones, look up to and appreciate, are not who we are led to believe. Musicians, actors, directors, writers, game developers, YouTubers, the trend has no qualms picking a profession because shitty people are everywhere. I'll give you a couple of examples. Could be voice actor Vic Mignogna, who has voiced many beloved characters such as Tamaki Suo from Ouran High School Host Club, Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist, and Broly from Dragon Ball Z. This guy has multiple sexual assault allegations against him. Mando Pony is another example. He created a ton of Five Nights at Freddy's fan songs, such as Just Gold and Survive the Night. Turns out he's a child groomer. Now let's move over to daytime television, because why not? Ellen DeGeneres, who has been seen as a sweetheart for most of her career as a TV host, turns out to be a total bitch. Let's get as mainstream as Ellen, but a completely different genre. J.K. Rowling wrote the entire Harry Potter series. Turns out that she is a TERF and a plagiarist. None of these things are fun to acknowledge, and none of these things are fun to deal with. The list goes on and on. It could be Call Me Carson, or Pyrocynical, or Shane Dawson, or Cryotic, or a plethora of other people. There are too many to name. It doesn't matter if you're into anime, YouTube, books, music, cable, games. It doesn't matter. Sometimes the people that you look up to end up being trash, and it sucks having to throw somebody away. The issue I'm seeing is separating art from artist. This person was a terrible person, but he voiced a character I loved. Or this person was a horrible person, but they wrote beautiful music. Or this person is a asshole, but she did giveaways on TV. Or this person hates trans people, but wrote a cool book series, which it turns out they actually stole a lot of ideas from other people. But just because you do wonderful things or create art, it doesn't mean that the horrible stuff you've done doesn't mean anything. They made something positive, so that means what? Their actions are to be glossed over? We don't talk about it? We don't do anything about it? The people who got hurt don't matter? Okay, here's how I see it. We, as viewers, or listeners, or collaborators, only see a sliver of who people really are, especially in entertainment. We build up who they are in our heads based on the information that we are given, and it is extremely rare that we are given the full picture of who a person is. You cannot expect to understand a performer inside and out, and you cannot deem what you have as your knowledge base for this person to be complete and impenetrable fact. Humans are malleable, static, crazy beings, and we do stupid, selfish shit all the time. I am no exception to doing stupid, selfish shit. And neither are you, and neither are the people you look up to. People who have the illusion of complete knowledge of a person shattered by an allegation and then continue to act like nothing went wrong scare the shit out of me. You have been dealt a horrible blow to what you perceive to be reality, and rather than acknowledge this reality and try to move on from the pain, you deny it, or you downsize it, or you completely ignore it. Or worse, you say the people who have been hurt are lying. But listen. You are not the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You are not invincible. You are, in fact, a loony. But what am I actually trying to get to here? I swear, I'm not yelling for the sake of yelling. Here we go. Anyone who knows me knows that the Slenderverse and the series contained within helped me become who I am today. The Slenderman explosion happened when I was still in high school. These series, ARGs, blogs, fan art, they gave me, at the time, something to stick around for. They gave me something to think about. And they gave me a stronger grasp of horror than The Twilight Zone did. And I love The Twilight Zone, but we'll talk about The Twilight Zone another day. I promise. With the Slenderverse, there were the big three. Marble Hornets, Everyman Hybrid, and Tribe 12. Marble Hornets came first, then Tribe 12, and then Everyman Hybrid. I was deeply into all three. But the one we're going to talk about today is Tribe 12. And how Tribe 12 has managed to piss me off so much that I came out of hiding with no warning except for a tweet posted weeks ago. Apparently the best way to get me back to doing something is to piss me off. So now you know how to summon me properly, I guess. The man behind Tribe 12 is a man named Adam Rosner. Now, over the course of the last few years, how he has acted behind closed doors has come to light in such a way that we can't ignore it. It can't be ignored. Every single action and detail has been cataloged somewhere. But I'll go over the gist of what has happened. You can look up the bigger details and the bigger info in your own time. I'm not going to sit here and read everything out loud for you. I don't do that anymore. But long story short, Adam Rosner groomed underage fans, and he coerced at least one of them into having sex with him. He also has shown to have a penchant for incest and zoophilia. And he tends to blame everything he has done that gets him into trouble on his autism. It's gross. It's sickening. It's ugly. And it happens way too much. Someone you looked up to for content and creativity ends up being a fucking monster. It's the same thing with Picasso and John Lennon. But the big difference that I'm looking at here today between Adam Rosner and Picasso is the fact that Picasso is fucking dead. You can't hold the dead accountable. The same goes for John Lennon. Lennon was an asshole who regularly abused his spouses and children, and he's also dead. Picasso used and abused women for his weird sexual perversions, and when he was done with them, he threw them away. And he's also dead. We can criticize all we like, but it doesn't change the fact that those two men are dead and cannot be held accountable. But people like Adam are still alive, and we need to hold them accountable for what they have done. You don't get a free pass to be a terrible human being just because you made something. It doesn't matter if it's a song, or a painting, or a goddamn YouTube series. You don't get a free pass to be a monster. This isn't canceling somebody for saying a racial slur 5 years ago. He's being outed as a fucking pedophile. There are receipts to what he's done. And the thing that really gets to me, other than everything about this, is the fact that there are people who want to ignore his actions or are even defending the guy because... why? Because he made a YouTube series? But honestly, comparing one of the best-known painters or musicians in the world to some asshole with Adobe and a Marble Hornets clone isn't to say they aren't in the same league. It's to say that even if you create something interesting, entertaining, or even life-changing, that should not excuse you from consequences to your actions. For now, at least, Mr. Rosner is still alive. And we do not help anybody, especially not his victims, by glossing over or ignoring what he's done. There is a couple of links down in the description in case you want to do more reading. The biggest one is a 45-minute phone call between Adam Rosner and a certain anonymous person who had a romantic and sexual relationship with him. They discussed things that at some points made me so angry that I had to stop the video and go outside. It is not pretty, it is not fun, and it's not for those with a weak stomach or people who have dealt with sexual misconduct in the past. If you have been a victim, I recommend not clicking the video unless you believe you are in a good place to listen to it. It gets explicit at times. It made me deeply uncomfortable. I'm just giving you a heads up. You can look at it if you want to, but everything about this case with Rosner, it's not pretty. At the time, Rosner did not know that the call was being recorded, and the only times that he seemed to feel genuinely bad about anything was when the idea of jail was brought up, or the conversation was about him and his mental health. The allegations against this man are many, and if you can't consider what happens in the 45-minute phone call to be evidence, I don't know what to tell you. There is no forgiveness or pity from me, at the very least, for child groomers, rapists, or zoophiles. And if you happen to be all three like this guy, well, good fucking luck. If you want more, once again, links. You don't need me to read it out for you. And like I said, I don't do that anymore. On to another thing that strikes a very unhappy chord with me. The fact that Rosner has decided to use his diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder as a shield and excuse for his actions. It's fucking disgusting and it's cowardly. Now, don't rip my head off. Let me explain. In case you weren't aware, and it's quite possible that you weren't, I myself am on the autism spectrum. While I myself have done some bad things, I know the difference between right and wrong, and my diagnosis is not now or ever an excuse. I grew up, I changed, and I am actively working every day to become a better person. And very few things piss me off more than blaming autism for shitty actions. There is a big goddamn difference between saying a 5-year-old kicking a dog didn't know any better and saying a grown-ass man grooming an underage girl didn't know any better. For all I care, Adam Rosner and his creation of Tribe 12 can fucking rot. People who worked with him have already given away most, if not all, of the big secrets for how it was going to end. If you are able to separate the art from the artist when the allegations are this serious, that is your prerogative. I don't want to hear anyone defending him in my comments section. I don't want you on my channel, and you know where the back button or the unsub buttons are. And on the incredibly off chance that Adam finds this, I do have something I need to say to him. I don't give a shit about how much your work helped me when I was in a dark place as a teenager. I don't give a shit how much you've helped expand ARGs as a genre. And I don't give a shit about this big apology video you have talked about. I don't care if it comes out 2 days from now or 2 decades from now. You are a fucking monster. You will never change. And you know it. People like you never fucking change. Well, I don't know what to tell you now, other than I have talked so long that the sun is starting to come up through the trees. And if you can tell by my voice, I am tired of talking, especially about this. But until next time, if there is a next time, thank you for coming out around the fire. You head on home. I'll douse the flames. And I'll see you past sunset.